Hi, I'm Greg Filson, known from the BXG podcast. You can get that anywhere. I'm here to tell you about really great sunglasses from Ambassador Sunglasses. If you need any kind, any style, they really do a representation. Men or women, you'll find a perfect pair. Good prices, and with my promo code GTPHILS, all caps, you can get 50% off starting now. Yeah, please go ahead, get yourself a pair, get someone else a pair. They're a really good price. I can't recommend them highly enough. I've been wearing the 4 that I've got all the time, and I get compliments all the time. You will too. Ambassador Sunglasses, ambassador.com. Promo code GTPHILS.
Welcome to the BXG podcast, the podcast where pop culture and nerd culture meet at the nexus of the universe and are melded as seamlessly as eating too much food and getting crappy sales the day after. I am one of your hosts, still $1 million short of being a millionaire, Brenton Bestwick, alongside my co-host, a man who handles more balls than Larry Bird, Greg Filson.
Nice. Hi, Brenton.
How's it going?
It's going all right. Definitely. I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago I realized I can't eat as much as I could, and that's
really
like
glad
without.
that's the direction we went.
Right. I felt like we had to go a different. And it hurts. Like when I was 20, in my mid 20s to very early 30s, 31, 32, you can have that second plate of food without having indigestion or anything like that. And to finish that first plate of food and to be like, oh, what is happening here? And like, I make a pretty substantial first plate, but still, like, it wasn't anything. It's weird for me. I don't like getting older and being forced to feel like crap earlier because of things I'm doing that aren't necessarily correct. So I'm still honestly feeling some of the effects of that. I had some leftovers today. So I'm still recovering, which is bad. Don't get old, people. Don't get older. You're not, like, I'm not old. You're not old, but don't get older because like things just get worse for you.
Funny story about that. Before I transition to that, I had leftovers for breakfast.
Oh yeah, same. Yeah.
So, I mean, we're recording a day late. We usually record on Thursdays. Obviously, Thursday this week is a national holiday, Thanksgiving. So we did not record. So obviously the episode is going to come out a day later. We've talked about this. Did you do any Black Friday? Like,
just on my phone. Like,
okay.
I don't go anywhere. I mean, like,
sure.
I bought some beer that just comes out on Black Friday, but I didn't do any like actual I don't do that stuff. Like,
okay,
because it's the thing. I saw like the meme of like Wednesday before Black Friday, it's a price, and then it's like they hike up the price, and then they, you're not really getting deals. And it's been like that.
I mean, it depends on what you're getting.
It depends, yeah. But it's not, to me, it's not worth the stress.
Yeah, because I bought Guardians of the Galaxy for PlayStation on the Black Friday sale for the PlayStation Store, and that's a game that just came out in like the last month or so. It should be $60, and I got it for like 35.
Well,
so that was a good deal. I got Mario Odyssey. It's a Christmas present, so I'm not getting it for another month.
Right.
But we got it on sale. We got some stuff.
You get some stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
We did go out to lunch. You want to talk about don't get old. I watched a woman get lost in the restaurant, an older woman get lost in the restaurant and cruise past her table twice, and the people at her table didn't say anything.
Well, that's just bad on
their part. Yeah, she wandered the restaurant for a good 10 minutes.
Was it an Outback?
It was at Outback Steakhouse. Yeah. Yeah. You were privy to this story, obviously.
I didn't see that part of it though, but I would just imagine those restaurants, like Outbacks are so big.
Yeah.
And I missed that. I figured it was either an Outback or an Applebee's.
No, I don't go to
like
Applebee's. Applebee's is terrible.
Yeah, but as in the size,
or like Olive Garden. Olive Garden is like labyrinthian.
I would say, like an Olive Garden, most people get lost in.
Yeah.
Like, there's probably people in an Olive Garden that just have been there for years, and they just become part of the wait staff.
I have a question for you. Now, you were making the pizzas. You weren't like doing like front of the house stuff. I need to know why the people at the front of the restaurants stare at those screens that are like the seating map, like they're staring into the fucking Matrix. It's not that, it can't be that hard.
A lot of times where I worked, it was pretty, like there weren't a lot of tables. The reasoning though is they have to look at reservations.
They don't take reservations at chain restaurants though.
Beyond that, where I worked, there was like a lot of reservations. So the reason why is they had to look at the map and be like, oh, we have a reservation in an hour, so these people can only be here an hour. I mean, at an Outback, my guess is that I don't know. I mean, front of the house sucks no matter what you do, so I don't know.
That girl was staring at that screen like she was trying to, like it was a Rosetta Stone, and she was trying to unravel the mysteries of Egypt.
I don't know. I mean, the thing I will also say is it's the Friday after Thanksgiving and you're at a restaurant. Your life probably sucks and you're just trying to suck in a little extra couple seconds any way you can.
Though. It is. That's neither here nor there.
Yeah, being at a restaurant in front of the house is a pretty bad job in the sense of that you get treated pretty terribly. And so there's probably a lot of just mental duress.
Right. She got treated pretty terribly because she seated two people that came in after us.
Well, that's not good.
For us. And I said, when am I on the list, ma'am? And she said, what's your name? And I gave her my fake name that I give to people at restaurants.
What is it?
Dustin.
Yeah.
Is there a last name or is
it just Dustin?
It's just Dustin. Oh. And
there should be Dustin Wynn.
Nobody gets my name right. And I spell it for them and they still get it wrong.
Yeah.
So I just give them a fake name.
So. I mean, I still get Craig a lot and I don't understand that. But I don't look like a Craig.
I don't know what you look like. We've got a great episode tonight. It's episode 62. Episode 62. BXG Podcast publishes every Friday at 9 a.m. on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and other podcast services around the globe. You can catch us over on the social media at facebook.com/BXG Podcast, Instagram at BXG Podcast, at GTFills, at Y2B, Twitter at BXG Podcast, at GTFills, and at Y2B, and over on our YouTube channel where you can just search for BXG Podcast, where you can see things like trailer reactions, movie reviews. There's going to be a lot going up this week because there's a lot to talk about. It's another review of Palooza. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 reviews tonight.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
That's all we got.
So we got a retro review. We've got some TV shows. We got some movies. We've got the Grammys. We've got Pop Culture Potpourri, where we're going to break down. I'm going to show you something on this new Spider-Man poster, but we're going to lead things off with Hawkeye. Hawkeye, the latest series from the Marvel Cinematic Universe over on Disney Plus streaming. Episodes 1 and 2 were made available the day before Thanksgiving, a little pre-Thanksgiving feast. We're just going to go, here's the thing. If you have not watched Hawkeye episodes 1 and 2 and you intend to, skip this to the next section. It's time stamped because we're going to go straight into spoilers. Okay. So spoilers are incoming. Yeah. For Hawkeye episodes 1 and 2. Episode number 1 sees a very young Kate Bishop observe Hawkeye defeat some Chitauri in the 2012 Battle of New York and decides to take up the bow and arrow. The opening theme takes us through her prominent years as she learns martial arts and archery to become a formidable foe. Meanwhile, Clint is on a trip to the Big Apple with his kids for Christmas fun and Rogers the Musical. and we see the toll that being an Avenger has taken on him. Kate attends a charity auction with her rich mother and soon-to-be stepfather, Jack. But this auction, much like a mullet, business in the front, party in the back, where they're dealing black market trinkets, including Hawkeye's Ronin suit and sword. After the auction is burglarized and the baddies are looking for a watch of some sort, Kate makes off with the Hawkeye suit, saving a one-eyed dog in the process, only to meet her hero, who is looking for his suit after she is spotted on the news. Episode 2, we'll just take them Thanksgiving style. We'll just do it that way. The tracksuit mafia is after Kate, and Hawkeye is after his suit. She suspects Jack has murdered his uncle Armand III. Meanwhile, Clint LARPs his way to getting the missing suit, and then decides to take down the tracksuit mafia, getting himself caught. Kate tries to rescue him and also gets caught. As the credits roll, they're about to meet the tracksuit's boss, who seems like she is possibly one of the Black Widows. If you saw the film Black Widow, you can check out our review on YouTube. It's worth noting director Rhys Thomas confirmed that Hawkeye takes place 2 years after the events of Endgame, making it the latest dated in terms of timeline phase 4 project to date. But given the Loki situation, who the fuck knows what the timelines are
right
at this point. So episodes 1 and 2, what were your thoughts?
My thoughts were, number one, really good. I texted you, like, this has a ton of potential. I know it's 6 episodes, but I thought keeping to like the actual Marvel universe and things like that, it was exactly what you wanted from Hawkeye. Like, it's grounded. It's not like there's not a lot of space there. There's nothing beyond. What I mean is, like, there's not a lot of space outside of that area. Not just like space, outer space, but there's this area of Hawkeye's life, which is really cool. And I thought that was just like a good way to deal with it. We're not dealing with anything else other than he needs his suit back. We may have some Black Widow stuff, which still deals with Hawkeye. And I'd like the self-containedness of this, because, you and I have talked about, the way the movies are and where we project is, going into the multiverse is going to be so bonkers.
Yeah.
And there's nothing bonkers about this. Like, Kate Bishop's in college, takes a bow and arrow to hit a bell, and like, that's the biggest thing ever to her. And that was awesome to me. It's like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing that could happen to her, because she's just a kid in college and this bell comes down. And then there's like, the black market stuff with his suit, which I was like confused about how they got the suit. That was like, not confused in a bad way. Like, I'm not like, oh, there's a missing link, but I'm sure there's something that'll, come together with that. But I thought that was a cool little setup for this. I think Jeremy Renner has just a good rapport with pretty much anybody he works with. But it seems like he and Kate Bishop have like extremely good rapport, and that made me excited. So my thoughts, with this would be, this is going to be even more grounded than Captain America and the Winter Soldier at this point. It's more grounded than that. It feels like this is probably just a 1-season show, which is fine with me. And it also is just, it's cool to have Hawkeye around, because it seems like Hawkeye is one of those characters that like no one is against, but he's not cool. Like, he has no actual superpowers other than he's very accurate. And this was a good thing of that. It's like, okay, Kate Bishop, same thing. No superpowers other than she's very accurate and knows martial arts. So I thought the first 2 episodes were a very cool way of representing that. Nothing outlandish. Like, everything that kind of happened in these first 2 episodes, which I looked at as kind of one solo movie almost. We're all realistic. There was nothing here that I was like, well, this is insane. This doesn't seem like this could happen. So I really like that. I like the realistic view of that. And I know that, the good Marvel, like all the, Marvel stuff going forward, it's not necessarily going to be a realistic, and I'll still like it. But this was cool that they did something like this that was realistic, grounded, and good.
Yeah. I think that they've always done a good job with this character by leaning into the fact that he's just a dude. I think I go back to Age of Ultron when he's giving Scarlet Witch the pep talk, and he's like, there's robots, the sky, we're on a flying thing, I'm shooting a bow and arrow, none of this makes sense.
And
I think that they did a really nice job. They've always done a really nice job of leaning into him just being a guy. And I also think that they did a very good job of showing the toll that is taken on somebody in this quote unquote line of work. He's got a hearing aid. Oh, why do you have a hearing aid? And it shows him going through all these explosions. He's got a bad back. He's got, he's beat to hell pretty much. The watch that they were after, that I think the dog snag also said Avengers headquarters, I believe, on it. And that's kind of weird to me, because there's almost an implication that after everything that went down with Thanos in Endgame was they just clean up crew. And we really don't know what's come of the Avengers facility since that time, because it did get pretty much annihilated. If you think about where the scenes happen, they all happen in it, like Tony's cabin after, the final battle. So I guess that might go a little bit into, as we move a little bit further, go into kind of what happened with the Avengers headquarters after the battle in Endgame. I thought that they did a really nice job with the first episode of kind of using the opening credits, theme song, montage, whatever, to kind of show how she went from, okay, she's this little girl, to now she's this archer, martial arts, whatever. It kind of gave you the sense of she can handle herself.
Right.
And I liked that, despite the fact that they're kind of positioning her to be the next Hawkeye, in so much as she's like a protege of his, that she's formidable, but she's also a 22-year-old girl and she took some lumps, versus just being a straight ass kicker, which I appreciated, because that would have been not super believable. Because like at the end of the day, size matters. And even if you're a 22-year-old girl that can handle herself, like the odds of you being able to fend off a like 30-year-old guy who's built is not great. You know what I mean? So
it's like she even know how to put a bandage on correctly, which I really like that scene too. Is like, you don't even know how to do this. Like, what are we doing here? I thought that was a good scene.
Yeah, I liked, so that's kind of my thoughts. Episode 1. Episode 2, her story was a little bit less interesting. She's doing the whole thing with stepdad, who I had to look him up because I was certain he was a Fast and Furious villain, but he's actually probably most well known for Better Call Saul. The LARPing was incredible. I loved that.
Me too. Yeah.
And I think that even plays into Clint just being a guy, because if Thor rolls up and somebody's got his outfit on, or like if somebody's carrying around Captain America's shield, or somebody's carrying around a pulsar cannon that Iron Man has, they're just going to kick their ass and take it. But like Clint was like, okay, God, whatever we got to do, we got to put on a show. Okay, we'll put on a show. I liked it. I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
I think that of all of the Avengers, he is consistently the most relatable, because he's just a guy. I mean, Natasha's that way too. She's just a girl.
But she's been through some stuff. Like,
but he has too. You know what I mean?
She's been, she did have her reproductive organs removed though.
Right.
And so there's like a thing where she is just like a killer mentality based purely on things like she's got. He doesn't really have we don't know his background enough to know the vengeance of what he has.
Well, I mean, we kind of saw that with the Ronin character.
But I mean, before, like, just him being an Avenger is kind of like, oh, he's good with a bow and arrow.
Right. I like that they're also exploring that he's kind of getting his comeuppance for what happened when he was Ronin.
Right.
Too.
Yeah.
So we'll see how things move forward. I was very pleased with the first 2 episodes. I think that this has a really good potential to do well.
If it holds, if it does what it keeps doing, it can be as good as WandaVision.
Yeah.
In a different way.
Yeah.
WandaVision, of course, is so much out there and like and like at the end of the day, I think both of us, I know you already initially had said that, and at the end, I kind of lean more that WandaVision is the best of those shows so far. But I think this can be as good. I mean, it could be better in a sense of like you and I both like the grounded storylines.
Sure.
And wherever this leads going forward with everything too may be different. But I think and there's no reason to doubt it either. I think this can be as good as WandaVision, if not better. I mean, depending on, as good as WandaVision's pretty solid, because you and I were like, this is awesome.
Yeah. I think it certainly will be better than Loki, which I thought was the weakest of the original 3 shows. And then I think that it'll probably be better than Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah. I do too.
So we'll see if it, we'll see how it holds up. I think part of it is just the fact that this is one of the Avengers. This was supposed to be a movie, you know what I mean? And then they dialed it back and it's okay, we're going to make a show out of it. So, he's one of the original guys. And I think that there is a little bit of maybe like panache to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And also Jeremy Renner is almost like, not that Tom Hiddleston isn't it, not that, but like Jeremy Renner's done like some stuff.
Yeah.
Before Avengers, before and after Avengers that really stands out. So it's just like, he's a really good like
he's pretty hot right now because he's got that show on.
He's like Hansel.
He's got something on like Paramount Plus, I think.
Right, like he's doing a lot of different things.
Mayor of Kingston or something.
Yeah, which that show looks awesome.
Yeah,
I need to watch that.
Yeah,
but it's just like he's someone that like actually is like bigger, not bigger than Marvel because you can't say you're bigger than Marvel, but like this is a guy that's done stuff and.
I mean, he came back to this for a reason. Chops.
Yeah, he came back to this for a reason. So
yeah. And I think here's the other thing is not to discount Haley Steinfeld because through the first 2 episodes she's done great. Well as well. Yeah, and I think really that they've got good on-screen chemistry.
She is just the like to me she's not with Scarlett out of the mix now. She's kind of the perfect complement to him because she still doesn't take his crap. Yeah. And that's the thing you have to deal with when you're that character's side to Jeremy Renner on these movies. Yeah. But we will both of us, I think, positive.
Oh, right? Definitely.
That's where I'm definitely positive.
I was ready for more.
Me too. Yeah.
Immediately. And I hadn't gotten that since like bits and pieces with Falcon and the Winter Soldier and bits and pieces with Loki, but on a week-to-week basis, I haven't gotten I want the next thing now like since WandaVision with these particular
I agree
with these particular shows. I will say this though.
Yeah.
As great as WandaVision was, and as great as this looks like it's going to be, still not as good as The Mandalorian.
I'm not. I don't disagree because The Mandalorian is incredible, but we will move on to neither Marvel or Star Wars content.
Weird.
So, Ghostbusters Afterlife. The estranged family of former Ghostbuster Egon Spengler inherits his farm in Oklahoma, and not everything is what it seems. McKenna Grace, Finn Wolfhard star alongside Paul Rudd, Carrie Coon, Logan Kim, and Celeste O'Connor in a movie that I loved. But
so we'll do spoiler free. You thoroughly enjoyed it. What spoiler free?
Spoiler free. Like,
there's really only one thing that can be spoiled about this movie.
Right.
Like honestly, if you really want to be honest.
If you want to be honest, there's the one thing. But if we're gonna do spoiler free, okay. I think I saw this movie when I was 4. The original, not this movie. That would be weird. The original Ghostbusters when I was 4. Because it came out in 84, and I think my mom had rented it because I just like things like that. And it had Bill Murray.
Yeah.
And so the reason why I think I think I saw it early because I had the whole everything. I had the backpack, I had the trap, I had everything. And I love that movie. And we did our top 10 movies, and I have Ghostbusters in my top 10 movie of all time. And I've argued with people. Yeah, we both did. And I've argued that you could argue that Ghostbusters is the greatest movie ever made. Like I've always said this, like if you made an argument strong enough, I wouldn't disagree with it because it has everything you want in a movie. I love Ghostbusters. It is to me like just that absolute everything. And then you see this movie, and I will say it starts out a little. It has it's a little train going. It doesn't have the speed. It's not a Ferrari. It's a train. But once it starts going, I mean, the nostalgia effect on this movie. If you're someone like me, that you were 4 or 5 when you first saw this movie, you're a kid of the 80s and you saw this movie and you love this movie, and you're like, even the second one, which I think is still really good too. And then to have the nostalgia kind of roll in and to push a little harder and to push a little harder. This movie, it's made for everybody, but this movie was definitely just attacking people that wanted nostalgia with Ghostbusters. And it hit me hard. Like I wasn't going in this movie, thinking I was going to get at all like emotional, have little lumps, maybe shed a tear. I mean, it was like, a few tears maybe, because, I love Ghostbusters. It's weird for me to go back on this. I talk about the movies I love, which are, a lot of like, Marvel stuff and American Psycho and things like this. But this is a movie that, we'll talk about another movie that I see every year going for, later on in the show. But I do see Ghostbusters every year around Christmas because it just is one of those kind of movies. And this hit everything for me. It did everything to me. This movie did everything right. It didn't do anything wrong when you're paying homage, because this movie was paying homage to that original movie, to those original 2 movies. It was saying to you, like, you want Ghostbusters, here's Ghostbusters. And we're not trying to do anything too new. We're giving you characters that are very likable, very, very likable. But we don't want you to think that like the previous Ghostbusters don't matter, because they still matter. Like all those 4, the original 4 Ghostbusters matter so much if you care about Ghostbusters at all. Like maybe too much in a way. For for the movie that came out a few years ago, the Ghostbusters, with the women cast, the female cast, and it was just like, that didn't grab me. Like this one grabbed me and it had me, and I thought it was great. And to look back at reviews of it and to just be like, do you even care? Like it made me mad. The reviews made me mad. I thought this was great. I really did.
So that's an important, and I looked this up as you were talking. Critical on Rotten Tomatoes 65, audience 95.
Okay, yeah.
And I think that, as you said, if you have nostalgia for Ghostbusters, this slaps.
It slaps you so hard.
It is. We usually, when we watch stuff, we don't talk about it until on the show because we want it to be organic. I told you after I got out, I said I saw Ghostbusters. No spoilers, but it's my favorite movie this year.
Yeah.
And it's really, and I love Shang-Chi, and I really like Black Widow. I really like some of the other movies that we've done, older movies, newer movies, what have you. We ran through the whole Marvel thing. We did the Fast and Furious thing. It wasn't even close. This is my favorite movie of the year. Yeah. And it is, as you said, if you were that kid growing up in the 80s, you liked Ghostbusters. I had the firehouse.
Yeah.
I had all the characters,
Ecto-1,
Marshmallow Man, Show and Tell, everybody at the preschool. If you were a boy, you had the proton pack. That was Show and Tell. Show and Tell probably got boring for the teacher because it was proton packs every week. And so I will say that this probably doesn't hit as hard as if you don't have that nostalgia piece.
Sure.
But the fact is that both of you and I do. And so I think that I did not see the one from 2016. I heard it, it got terrible reviews, critically panned, fans didn't like it. It appeared it was mostly just a cash grab, right? And they kind of shoehorned the full woman thing in there. This was, and we'll get into it for a second, and I truly believe the last 2 words that were on the screen before the credits rolled are why this movie was so good.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
And because that's what the spirit of it was.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I will say is that McKenna Grace, superstar.
100%. Oh yeah. I mean, like, you don't see kids in movies that often.
She was the star of this movie. She was 100% the star of this movie.
She has whatever she wants to do, and she sang the song at the end of the movie too. Like, that's her song. Whatever she wants to do, she can do. Like, she's one of these people. If she wants to be a singer, she wants to write books, she wants to be a movie star.
Yeah.
She she grabs you from the very beginning.
This was
amazing.
This was a vehicle for, the sexiest man in the world, Paul Rudd, this year, and she absolutely stole the show.
Oh yeah.
And I have no problem saying it. Absolutely stole the show.
Yeah.
Couldn't have played that character any more perfectly. Like, it's a Ghostbusters movie.
She should be nominated for Academy Award. I'm 100. Like, I don't even say this. Like, I'm not saying this because of how my thing with the things about acting.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's supposed to be about acting. It's not supposed to about being a former, like, someone that's been famous for a while. You can't be better than what she was in that role, because what happens at the end and the way that she handles it.
Well, the whole way through, but
the whole way through, she builds up.
She's Egon Spengler's granddaughter, and she is Egon Spengler's granddaughter.
Yes,
like she nails it, 100%.
It's amazing. It's so good. She's 100%. So good, and if she wants to come on the pod and talk about it before she's super famous, she can.
So, spoiler-free recommendation. If you have any nostalgia for Ghostbusters, see this movie.
Yeah.
Like, make it a priority.
I'm actually mad at myself for not seeing it earlier.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I will say. I'm mad at myself.
If you don't have that nostalgia, it's not going to hit as hard. It's just not.
No.
Because, and now we'll get into the spoilers. Spoiler alert for Ghostbusters Afterlife. For Harold.
I mean, like I said, I didn't think I would get emotional at all.
Right.
I'm sorry. I cried. I tried to hold back. Like, there were certain other things that made you, like, when she calls and it's Dan Aykroyd.
Right.
And that certain, and I was like, that's good. And it was a good scene. That was a really good scene. Didn't cry. And then, we know that, when it's actually announced, because we know it, but it's not announced. Right. And then when she makes, I'm Egan Spengler's, granddaughter.
Because they played with that the whole movie.
They played with the whole time.
Said it.
And then, you see him and you're like, oh, that's awesome. And like, I had chills go up my spine, and it's been a chills go up my spine week anyhow for different things, but that happens. And then when it all ends and it says for Harold, I was done. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I mean, I'm tearing up right now. My eyes are gonna, like, if you care about these movies and like what, it's also just like, because Harold Ramis he's beyond Ghostbusters,
right?
But he is also
Stripes.
But he's also Ghostbusters. Like, that's like the thing he and Dan Aykroyd care more about Ghostbusters than anything.
Yeah.
And if you care about it, then you understand it. And it's just like, to say that, and for Dan Aykroyd to do this, and Murray. Murray and everyone, for everyone to come back and do this, except for Rick Moranis, which was a bummer. I would have liked to see Rick Moranis just for fun.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do? But for them to come back, and then for the way it actually ends.
Yeah.
With Ernie, it's like, oh, okay, like this is important. And like, I'm not wrong. It made you, it was like this vindication for, like, I've loved this movie for literally 30 years. It's the only movie I've loved for 30 years other than maybe Cinderella. And it's like, and it's like, it made me, that's why I feel the way I feel about it. It was like, wow, like, other people care too, including the people that actually made this movie. Because there's so many people make movies and they don't care.
Right.
They make it and it's over. This is a movie that they cared about and they wanted to make it for him. And I can't, if he can watch this movie if somehow he can watch it, if he is, whatever you think of the Afterlife, I don't know. But if he can, he's proud of this movie. I would 100% say. I mean,
I would add that the director got permission from his family to use a CG ghost version of Harold Ramis in the closing scenes. And like, that was really the moment that I lost it, was because I knew that Ernie Johnson and not Ernie Johnson. Is that his name? That's not his name.
Ernie Hudson.
Yeah, Ernie Hudson.
Yeah.
I knew Ernie Hudson, I knew Aykroyd, I knew Murray were coming back. And when they show up at the end, and I thought that was the other thing that I thought that this movie did a wonderful job of paying tribute to the past, but not overusing it in the way that Star Wars did. Honestly, we said we weren't going to talk about Star Wars, but it always comes back to it.
It does. It has to.
But they really walked that line of making something new and making it their own, paying homage to the original, and not overusing it and cramming it down your face.
It's also because like they didn't just save the day by themselves at the end of it.
Right.
And that's what made it so good. Like if they saved the day, it would have been like, okay, I still would have loved the movie because the way but they didn't save the day. They needed everybody else's help.
Needed everybody.
Made this
and
movie.
They needed Egon, They needed Egon. That was the part that I really like. It like I lost it, man. I lost it. It was like when he showed up and took her hand.
Yeah, I mean, I cry way more than I used to with movies. I think it's just getting older or whatever. Yeah. I mean, I'm just whatever, and I don't care anymore. I used to care probably more, but that was like one of those things where it's just like, I'm not gonna like weep and make a noise, but like I'm gonna let the tears go. Yeah, because like I cared a lot about these movies. I mean, there's a good part of me that probably actually cares more about Ghostbusters than any movie.
Yeah,
and that's just and like I said, if you at all like these movies, you'll love this movie in that sense. And if you love Ghostbusters like you and I do, you're done. Yeah, you're done. And this is
Forget about it.
Yeah.
I would say, and there was 2 end credit scenes. The first was kind of a callback to the ESP scene in the original, and they got Sigourney Weaver to come back.
That was awesome because they say and Sigourney Weaver, and it's like I was like, what?
Where?
And then immediately you get the scene.
Right. And then I actually I thought that was it. And so I took off. I didn't know that there was another scene with Ernie Hudson where they teased the potential sequel. Personally, I kind of don't want them to do anymore because I thought this was perfect.
Sure.
I thought it was absolutely perfect. And it won the box office for the weekend, and it's outperforming expectations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But they'll do more because studios like money. You know what I mean?
It's Ghostbusters.
But I think for like the preservation of the franchises, this was the perfect end cap, like you said, almost 40 years later. And let's just be done, because this was a 12 out of 10 piece of perfection this is exactly what this is, right? Pop culture and nerd culture beating at the nexus of the universe. And you have this movie that was a phenomenon in the 80s, and it kind of went away, and it stayed in the hearts of people like you and me who were more on the nerdy side or whatever. And it brought it all back. I will say I was disappointed that there wasn't a shout out to Tobin Spirit Guide. That was the only thing that I didn't catch. They brought Ivo Shandor back. They brought Zool and Gozer and I Am the Gatekeeper and all that fun stuff. I really hope if they do a sequel to this that it's not Vigo from the second 80s movie. But yeah, I mean, I can't say enough about this movie. Like I said, my favorite movie of the year, hands down. But I do know, I understand that a lot of it is just the nostalgia for the original as well. So
I think that, but also like if you don't have nostalgia for Ghostbusters, then
but if you're like we're almost 40, you know what I mean? We're 37.
I understand that, but like I mean,
if you're 20 years old, you're not.
If you're 20 years old and you haven't seen Ghostbusters, though, then you need to talk to your parents. I'm serious. Like, if I had children, I'm showing them Ghostbusters oldest 4.
It's kind of scary.
It's a little scary. Guess what? Life's scary, Brenton. Going to work every day.
So
scary.
Here's the thing: Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Yeah.
Like we said, if you are a Ghostbusters fan, see this movie.
Yeah.
And if you're not a Ghostbusters fan, it's probably not going to hit you as hard.
If you're not a Ghostbusters fan, watch the first 2 Ghostbusters. And
yeah. I still think that there's enough in there for newcomers to at least enjoy it.
She's so good.
But that's the thing,
McKenna Grace is so
even her being good is because it's Egon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you have to have that frame of reference.
I will say her friend is very good.
Podcast.
Podcast is very good. As like, he's the Nate from like Spider-Man.
Yeah, a little bit.
And so like, I like that too, where like, he's just a nice sidekick. And also, we were talking about how Paul Rudd's great in this movie because he knows he's not the star. Like, it kind of takes the thing of like, I'm not the star. Let me just be Paul Rudd in this movie. So he's just very Paul Rudd. Yeah. He's
something. We'll move on to a movie that I did not see and you saw to give us a review for The House of Gucci, starring Lady Gaga and Adam Driver as, oh man, you're killing
Patricia Reggiani and Mauricio Gucci.
With Jared Leto as Paulo Gucci, Al Pacino as Aldo Gucci, Jeremy Irons as Rodolfo Gucci, and Salma Hayek as Pina. In this film, Ridley Scott, I believe.
Ridley Scott.
Yeah, we'll talk more about Ridley later.
Yeah.
Based on actual events of the rise and downfall of the
downfall and rise of Gucci more than it is the rise. Yeah.
Usually you have to be up to fall.
Well, they were already up. Patricia meets Mauricio early on in the movie, and
this wasn't Romeo and Juliet?
It kind of was. I mean, the families weren't trying to kill each other, but so they meet each other, and then Patricia is like, I need to make Gucci good again. Like, not good again, but I need to keep it up with where it is. Like, it was staying in the safe lane. And so she's trying to take over. Are you
doing like a spoiler free, or what are we doing here? I didn't see it, so you're not going to spoil it. It's not going to spoil anything.
The movie itself is kind of like a spoiler because the whole thing is the thing I'll say about is like, if you know anything about this, someone dies. Oh. Okay. So
I don't need to know.
I'll give the spoiler free. So it's a really good adaptation of like these fashion things. If you watch like the Versace docu-series, and if you watch any of these fashion things, it's like insane. I'll talk about one of, in my recommendations too, is the fashion industry is insane. And people are always trying to take over, do different things, whatever. And this is a revenge story of sorts that ends up, the thing that, and I saw this with Janie, and we both walked away like, holy cow, this movie was like that perfect thing of like, it was a hot mess and it was so over the top, but that's kind of fashion. And that's the, what you want from it. And the reviews were a little bit like, kind of in the Ghostbuster realm. I was like, oh, I don't know about this. It's like, well, the idea of like fashion is to be over the top. Like Jared Leto's character as Paolo Gucci is so over the top. It's so weird. He does not look like Jared Leto. He has prosthetics. He's fat. He's balding. He's a mess. Al Pacino has one really good scene where he flips out, which is hilarious because you need to have Al Pacino. Jeremy Irons is just like old and weird. And then Salma Hayek is this, palm tarot reader for Patricia. So the whole movie is essentially this envelope of Patricia trying to take over. She can't. Mauricio realizes that she's trying to do more than, he wants her to do. He, tries to get her out of her life, and then she enacts revenge. So that's the spoiler free. review. The spoiler is that Lady Gaga hires, spoiler. Lady Gaga hires Pina's group of people, these two guys, these, what are bounty hunters, to kill Mauricio because she's mad. She wants her family back. Who's Adam Driver?
Are they in a relationship?
They were married. They got married. Okay. Yeah.
But who was help me understand, who was the actual Gucci?
Al Pacino and Jeremy Irons are the head of the Gucci at the time.
Okay, but which
and
one
then
of
Jeremy
those
Irons
two?
dies. So Jeremy Irons dies, but he cuts Mauricio out of it for a little while because he's like, oh, you can't marry this like common person, Patricia.
So who is the Gucci? Like the actual Gucci? Kylo Ren?
Well, they're the head of Gucci right now.
No, I mean of those two. Who's the actual?
It's 50-50 between them.
Which
as brothers.
One's the natural? Oh, holy shit.
Oh,
man.
Al Pacino and Jeremy Irons are brothers.
Yeah, I know that. I'm saying of Lady Gaga and Adam
Adam Driver is Mauricio Gucci.
He's okay. Then, so he's the actual Gucci.
So
Kylo Ren.
The family storyline. This is based off a book. So Rodolfo Gucci is Jeremy Irons, and he's the father of Mauricio Gucci. And then Al Pacino is Aldo Gucci. He's the father of Paolo Gucci. Aldo and Rodolfo are the head of Gucci at the time this movie starts. Jared Leto is Paolo Gucci, son of Aldo Gucci, but he's kind of just a sloppy mess. He doesn't really know what he wants. He's trying to put pastels with browns. It doesn't work. Mauricio doesn't really care about Gucci that much. And he's like, well, I just want to marry Patricia because, it's this like cute girl. She's whatever. And, has a good attitude. Basically, that's kind of it. And then Patricia kind of is like, well, she knows he's a Gucci, all this stuff. So she's trying to infiltrate back into this. She catches Aldo. They're invited to Aldo Gucci's birthday party. She woos him and like, oh, we should be a part of this. So she is like, oh, I need to help Gucci because you guys are too much in like what we're just normally doing. I need to take over. It's like kind of a mess. And
sounds like a mess.
It is a mess. It is totally a mess.
You can put your hands down if you want.
Well, I'm formulating the thing. So anyhow, once Patricia realizes it's a mess, she's trying to infiltrate the Gucci like storyline, like the whole thing. But Mauricio now is realizing like, oh, I could take over this company and it would be not that bad. So he gets this corporation Invesco to take over, which took over Tiffany's, the jewelry company, to buy out Aldo after Rodolfo dies.
Let me stop you there.
Yes.
How are the performances? Because you're wading too deep into the story, and I'm
sorry. Like, I'm
just
giving the story. It's fine. It's kind of what's funny is the storyline in the movie is not confusing, but when you talk it out, it is confusing.
Well, I think
everyone's
the
awesome.
The problem's the names.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Which is to say, I mean, it is what it is, right?
They're very Italian.
Yeah.
The performances are amazing. I would say actually like Jared Leto's character probably stands out the most because he's so ridiculous. And like Jared Leto has this like super high pitched voice and just it's insane. Lady Gaga 100% is nominated for an Academy Award. The previews for the movie kind of do her a disservice where like the accent sounds weird, but then when you're actually watching the movie, the accent's fine. Because everyone kind of has this same like.
Yeah, that's what my thing when we did the trailer.
Yeah, right.
She sounded Russian.
No, it doesn't even sound like that. It is very like subdued. She gets the reason why she sounds like she's in all the preview stuff. She's so pissed off because she's just trying to like end this whole thing. I mean, Adam Driver's Mauricio is very funny just because he's this kind of goofy guy. Al Pacino is really good. Is like this. He's subdued until he isn't, and then he blows up, and that's Al Pacino in every movie, which is fine. Jeremy Irons is only in it for like a little bit, and it's Jeremy Irons, so he's pretty solid. I would also say it's probably Jared Leto and then Salma Hayek, who's Pina, this consultant for whatever reason. It's because of this phone call of like the tarot card thing with Lady Gaga. So the whole thing is just so. I will say this movie is insane. It's absolutely crazy, but it kind of encapsulates the idea of this whole Gucci and fashion industry thing. So Patricia ends up getting Pina and her crew to assassinate Mauricio. And then she and the crew all go to jail for a very long time. But Tom Ford, who is also a very famous fashion designer, was put in charge.
Jay-Z wrote a song about him.
Yeah, Tom Ford was put in charge by Mauricio earlier in the midway before all this happens. And then he and Mauricio's friend take over Gucci, throw Mauricio out. And then because of all this, which is essentially what Patricio is trying to do, makes Gucci become a $60 billion corporation. So all these things that Patricio was trying to do, Mauricio had the ideas of because of her, divorces her so he can have the reins. But then his friend throws him out of it, buys him out of this. And it's insane. It's an insane movie. If you like the fashion world, it's great on that. If you want to just see like craziness evolve around you, it's also a lot of fun. The performances are really good. The movie does it's I think it's probably 2.5 hours. It felt quick to me. I don't know, it felt quick. It's probably 2.5 hours. The performances just keep carrying you along because Lady Gaga is so good. That's the thing too, where it's just like, 10 years ago, you had no idea Lady Gaga was going to be like this amazing actress. And then she's very, very good. And I'm not saying that's just because I like Lady Gaga, as a musician, but she's just a really good actress. And then Adam Driver, is very good. And everybody else kind of like patches this all together to this crazy storyline that is like this based off this book. It's a wild, wild movie. It's my second favorite movie of the year. To Ghostbusters. This is the thing. The thing about this movie is it's hard for me to talk about it without it like going exactly like I said, where you're piecing everything together, because the movie is so kind of crazy to get you to where you want to go, but you have to enjoy the subtleties of like all the weird performances until it's like, yeah, this is the thing. It's like Lady Gaga and Adam Driver are awesome, and then you see all the side characters, and then you get the actual ending. So
yeah, I kind of like, to me, it looks almost, just looking at the trailers, not having seen it, but I feel like the elevator pitch is like, well, it's Goodfellas with clothes.
Yeah. This is the thing I'll say about it is I bet Adam Driver and Lady Gaga and maybe Jared Leto are nominated for Academy Awards. The movie's not going to get nominated for Best Picture.
It might. They nominate everything these days, and it's kind of a weak year. Let's be real.
Maybe. There's still movies to go, I guess, but it's one of those things where it's just like, it's not doing hot critically. It's a 61. Yeah, it's a 61, but it's
85 audience for what it's worth.
It's like, not to sound like, it's just super intense. Like, it's so weirdly fashion too. Like, you have to kind of be into fashion to kind of enjoy it too. That'd be the other thing. The book is very fashion based from what I've understood. And so they're taking that and making it into a movie seemingly for everyone, but you're still dealing with fashion. So, but I would recommend it. I would totally recommend. I would recommend it for anyone just because of the performances. And then if you like fashion, it's not like the Ghostbusters thing where you're like love, but it's still very good.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. House of Gucci, Greg's review. And if you understood what was happening, contact us and you can.
This is good. Yeah. Because you have to see it. It's a lot of movie. Try
to ascertain what was going on there. Lady
Gaga wants to kill Mauricio because she's married to him and she
Let's
wants to
just-
take over Gucci. That's it.
let's-
That's all you need to know.
Let's move on.
Mhm.
Let's do that. Let's move on. Let's do, tell you what, we're going to do Planes, Trains, and Automobiles next. And then
All right, let's do it.
go back. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, 1987. The tale of a man trying to make his way home to Chicago from New York by way of Wichita, St. Louis, and more, as he's accompanied by a bumbling companion. Steve Martin stars as Neil Page and John Candy stars as Del Griffith in this 1987 comedy from director John Hughes. So this is one of your favorite movies.
One of my favorite movies.
This is the first time I've ever seen this.
So this is one of my favorite movies. My grandma, after the dinner was made on Thanksgiving, she had two movies that she would always put on. There was always some portion with football on, and then she's like, I'm putting these movies on. It was, the first movie was always Plane, Trains, and Automobiles, and the second movie is always Dumb and Dumber. So that was what my grandma had. Like, not a lot of people got to meet my grandma. Did you ever meet my grandma, Brenton?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so.
I didn't think so either. So my grandma had a very funny, like, odd sense of humor. And for her to like these two movies, which are very slapstick, really hit with me. So I've seen Planes, Trains, and Automobiles literally since I can remember seeing movies on Thanksgiving. Yeah, I mean, there may be that nostalgia thing. This is the nostalgia episode, but it still holds up.
It really is. Yeah, it really is a nostalgia episode.
And I saw this movie 2 nights ago, and I was like, this movie still gets me. Like, it's still just as good as it was last year, and it was still as good to me 15 years ago. And it's probably in the top 3 or 4 in the movie I've seen the most times. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What did you think, Brendan? Now you're first time viewer. So
yeah. I thought originally the very early on moment when John Candy, we're not gonna do a spoiler thing. This movie's almost 40 years old.
Yeah,
it's
right.
35 years old. When Steve Martin tries to track down the cab and he opens the door and John Candy looks at him like this, I was like, I'm in for something here. But I've never really liked Steve Martin.
Really?
Yeah. And so I'll be honest, I couldn't get this out of my head. Was this movie, it's of the time, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So it kept giving me vacation vibes. Like, Christmas vacation, Vegas vacation, Euro vacation. And that's what I couldn't stop thinking about it because I love those movies. Love those movies. I kept thinking to myself, this almost would maybe just for me personally, and I recognize this is a me problem, right? This maybe to me would have been better if Neil had just been Clark Griswold and it would have been Chevy Chase. Changed nothing about like the different movements of the movie in the various different
Going Home
parts.
to Chicago makes sense.
Going Home to Chicago, the whole nine. Changed nothing other than the fact that instead of Steve Martin, it's Chevy Chase and the character is just Clark Griswold. But with that being said, there's some very funny moments in this movie. I would say to me personally, the funniest moment is when they have the rental car and John Candy can't get his park off. Yes. And he's, flicked the cigarette and it goes in the back and then the car catches on fire and so on and so forth. You can see a lot of movies like Due Date, Identity Thief or Identity Theft, whatever that movie's called. You could probably even make the case that you can see a lot of The Hangover in this movie because you have this kind of like the straight man, which is Steve Martin, and then this sort of bumbling idiot sidekick, John Candy, very possibly one of the most underrated comedic movie actors of all time.
Oh, yes.
And I feel like without John Candy, you don't get Farley and you don't get Galifianakis because he was kind of the precursor to those guys. And that's what this movie was. In many cases, to me, it was that sort of, I'm on a trip and I have this moron with me, and the moron means well, obviously. It's kind of like our podcast. I'm the straight man and I've got this moron with me and he means well.
Right.
And,
exactly.
but like,
right.
The end really gets you whenever he's like, what are you doing here? He's like, I'm homeless. My wife's been dead for 8 years. I just, like, I didn't expect that to happen. And when it took that turn, I was like, no, that's kind of a bummer.
Right.
It's this funny movie, and now it's just sad at the end.
I think on that end, I've heard different things about like Chevy Chase, like what you said. And the thing is, was like, it was so hard to take Chevy Chase doing like the Christmas Vacation movies and then being a straight asshole, even though Chevy Chase was known as being that in real life. Right. He wasn't really that in those movies.
Yeah.
And like, so Steve Martin was kind of known as being an a-hole. And so to put him in a movie where he is the a-hole worked better on that thing. And it's like,
I guess that's fair.
And then, like, if you don't like Steve Martin, it's kind of, or like, and you're thinking you're not like a fan of, that was kind of the idea of it. And you're falling into it. It's like, you're not supposed to like Steve Martin in this movie until you kind of do, until you're like, oh, like he's kind of an a-hole this entire time. And John Candy's just trying to be like, I mean, there's definitely parts about like, the thing I've always said is like, if you want to like show a kid how not to act, it's be John Candy. Like, don't put your sinks in, put your socks in a sink. Don't do all these other little things. But at the end of the day, just be good-hearted and all these things. And, he tries his best. And that's kind of the thing with this movie. And I think the reason that my grandma had these movies back to back, and I never thought about it literally until we watched the other day, is they're just driving movies.
Kind of.
Dumb and Dumber and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles are like two guys in a car.
Yeah.
And stuff happens. And like the end and the beginning don't matter that much. It's really what happens in the middle. And it's like, it does, at the end of both those movies, it's kind of, Dumb and Dumber has a sad ending in a comical way.
Sure.
In a comical way. But Planes, Trains, and Automobiles has a sad ending in an actual like sad way.
Yeah.
But you do have this feeling that they're going to be friends forever now. Right. Despite like the way everything worked out. So, I mean,
the other thing that I couldn't figure out as I'm watching it, I'm like, how in the hell is this movie rated R? And then when you get to the scene at the
rental car,
the rental car thing, and Steve Martin drops like 15 F-bombs.
It's so good.
It's just like, oh, that's why. Yeah. But no, I mean, I would say this is a solid watch. Like I said, I understand that this is a me problem with this Steve Martin block that
sure. I mean, like, it's not your fault.
It's not I'm not giving this like a don't watch this as a bad movie by any stretch. It's a funny movie. You know what I mean? The music was weird. That was the other thing.
Well, it's John Hughes. And I will always say this is the thing. I really like John Hughes movies, and we watched most of 2 Home Alones last night. I always think the movie's weird in John Hughes movies. Yeah. Even the movies, like, and I love John Hughes movies just in general. The music's always so comical.
Yeah, it was super 80s.
It's super 80s, but like also just very up, even when it shouldn't be. But that's probably just like John Hughes's thing. So
yeah, I don't know. It was kind of weird. But let's get some more nostalgia. Let's get some of my nostalgia in.
Yeah, there we go. Yes. We'll move on to the Cowboy Bebop. We'll do the first 3 episodes just because it was a lot.
It didn't stop me.
It didn't stop you. It had to stop me because a lot of stuff happened in congruence with everything. But we'll get into it. So I'll read all 3 episodes and then we'll kind of break it down. Episode 1, Cowboy Gospel, Spike and Jet head to New Tijuana to track down a red-eyed dealer. Episode 2, Spike and Jet track a one-armed Teddy bomber while Spike grapples with his past. And episode 3, Dog Star Swing, Jet tries to track down a present for his daughter while Spike tracks a mark using a face changer. So Brenton, like, you and I have both watched this, but this is definitely more in your wheelhouse of things. So what did you think? I know you watched all 10.
Yeah, I watched it. I was done with it by Sunday morning. I was ready to do the season wrap up. So the series has been very divisive online. Critically, on Rotten Tomatoes. Oh, where'd it go? Critically, 48, audience 53. So not doing super hot in that regard. I've seen a lot of people with complaints about the way that the show was shot. And the biggest complaint that I've seen is it unnecessarily goes into the backstory between Spike, Vicious, and Julia, whereas Vicious is in 5 episodes of the anime, of the 24 episode anime run, and Julia she's like a ghost. She's barely in it at all. And so they took some liberties, and that's what like the showrunners had said. It's not a 1-to-1 of the anime. And it couldn't be, because these are 45-minute to an hour long episodes, whereas the anime are 22-minute long episodes. So they had to fill in the gaps a little bit. It's difficult. I'll be honest with you. For me, it's difficult to really point to these episodes in a singular fashion, just because I did watch the whole thing.
Sure.
But these are all episodes taken from the anime. The first episode is pretty much a 1-to-1 comparison of the first episode in the anime, minus the fact that Faye is not in that episode in the anime. And she does show up in the first episode of the live action Netflix series. There's not as much. The bar that they go to, specifically in the second episode, is not. It features throughout this series. They're there often. It's one of kind of the main settings of the show, and that's not really a 1-to-1 with the anime. But the Teddy Bomber, Asimov, and the girl from the first episode, and then Hakeem from the third episode, with when they find the dog Ein, the Welsh Corgi, those are all episodes from the anime.
Right.
I've seen a lot with, like I said, people didn't like the way it was shot. People didn't like the backstory that they filled in. I tend to agree with that. I think that Vicious as a character, it's one of those things where scarcity builds tension.
Right.
And he's in, like I said, he's in 5 episodes in the anime of the 24 episode run. And that's one of the things that, it's an important episode if he's in it.
Right.
And so for him to feature prominently, I think kind of made him a little bit less intimidating. And he's kind of goofy looking. The guy that plays him is kind of goofy looking. And then, so that's probably my number one complaint. But I would say that John Cho, who stars as Spike Spiegel, and Mustafa Shakir, who stars Jet, if you close your eyes and listen to Mustafa Shakir play, like voicing Jet, it sounds like it's ripped straight out of the anime. He sounds so much like him that it's creepy to me. I thought John Cho did just well enough as Spike. That's a hard role to play. And I in the episodes that, other than episode 1, Faye is not really a factor, so we won't touch on her too much. But I think that the episodes, or I'm sorry, I think the characters that they got right, they got really right, and the characters that they got wrong, they got really wrong. And so like I said, I blazed through this through the first, the whole season in about 48 hours. And I actually started watching it again. And then I, started watching something else. It's difficult for me to, like, I was immediately enthused, and this happens often with me. I'm immediately enthused, but then when I kind of take a step back from it and the nostalgia wears off a little bit, the same level of enthusiasm is not there. I don't think it's a 40, 46 and a 53 or whatever the Rotten Tomatoes numbers are. I think it's probably in the high 6 to low 7s range for me. But speaking, on these specific episodes, I thought the first one was very good. I thought it was a good way to open. The second episode, not as strong. They dealt a little bit more with the backstory stuff, which I didn't really like as much. And then the third episode, Jet trying to find the gift, which was pretty funny, like that whole story arc. But then, them getting a hold of the dog Ein, that is kind of a recurring character moving forward, was interesting. And I like that episode. So, I mean, like you said, I've seen the anime. I've probably seen it the whole way through 3 or 4 times. I don't think you've probably even seen every episode. So what did you think of?
I thought the first episode was really strong.
Mm-hmm.
And I really liked it. I thought the pacing was really good. I knew that everything wasn't like boom, 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 up with the anime. The second episode, I definitely felt like, I want to say maybe, I don't want to say lost, but it just felt like it wasn't trying to progress as quickly. And then the third episode pulled me back in a little bit more. I would say, like, ranking of it, the first episode was really like my favorite. The third episode was my second favorite. I would say like the second episode, it'll probably, I hope, my hope is that the second episode is my least favorite of all the episodes. I just really thought the second episode just didn't do it justice to, I think I've actually seen most of all of the Cowboy Bebops, if not all of them. I didn't realize it was just 22 episodes because I kind of watched it, or 24. But the second episode just seems so out of context for like the anime and for like this show after watching the third one too. So I think the first one like definitely held its own. Like you said, John, it's the characters, it's tough because that show is so, like, the anime is so revered and such a tough, it's really well done. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, it's as perfect as that kind of show can be. And for this to be like, oh, let's do this live action seemed tough. So
yeah,
like I said, I hope the second episode is as bad as it gets. Because I necessarily that it was bad. It just didn't really seem like it was doing the anime justice. It felt kind of wonky to me.
Yeah, and
first and third were more in the actual zeitgeist.
And I think that's the thing that people are struggling with, but it's all about expectations. I mean, if you came into this expecting the anime after they said this isn't going to be a recreation of the anime, then you were going to be disappointed. And it kind of came down to like alter your expectations and kind of try to appreciate what they're trying to do. And I think that they did. I think for the most part, like I said, I don't think when I finished the series, I was like, that's a 10. I can't wait to watch it again. And then take a step back from it. And I was like, well, okay, I can see that there's kind of a little bit of warts here. But I think that so many people run to the internet with their initial reaction to things that they don't give it a chance to gesticulate a little bit and really sit down and think about it, and also take away some other people's opinions. I mean, I saw a lot of people say that they didn't like the certain camera techniques that they use to make the villains look a little bit more bombastic, but that's how those villains are. I mean, they are bombastic, and I felt that they did a good job of that. So we'll do 4, 5, and 6. We'll do 4, 5, and 6 next week, and then we'll do 7, 8, 9, 10 the week after.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah.
Put a pin in it that way, and I'll probably go back and watch some of those episodes so that I can speak maybe a little bit more to the singular episodes rather than the series as a whole. But we'll move on to the challenge. A little late in the evening for the challenge, but the challenge nonetheless. The daily challenge sees the cells compete in the $1 Million Dash, in which they need to transfer 1 million $1 bills from a safe to a car. I don't know if you noticed that. I did. The Emerald Cell wins the day and is safe from elimination. In deliberation, Big T asks to be the house vote so she can prove she's ready to run TJ's final. Spoiler, she's not. She chooses Emmy, and they compete in a challenge in which they must solve a puzzle and jump through an ice bath at regular intervals. Emmy wins, making her 4-0 in eliminations this season, and she chooses to rejoin Uncle CT on the Sapphire team as the pickings get slim heading into TJ's final. I just want to note before we get into the episode, Big T posted on Instagram today that this will be her last season of the challenge because she was accepted into cooking school. So we want to wish Big T the best. She's one of our favorites.
Yeah,
she's got to be brave. And
she'll be on a Great British Bake Off, I hope.
I swear to God, I'll watch it every episode.
Oh, you should. You should watch it anyhow. But yeah. Like, she's on it. That'd be great.
Anyway.
Good.
So, I mean, here we are. I would say we're looking at one more guys elimination.
Yeah, one more guys elimination. Yeah.
And then a 2-part final. One more guys elimination, 2-part final, and then that takes us to probably the reunion episode on the 22nd.
Yeah.
And then that's where we're at.
Such a weird thing. Like I said to you, I was shocked they did it on the week. They never used to do these on the week.
Yeah. They usually take this week off.
Which is weird, but also it must just be like a COVID thing where they're just like people are at home or they're somewhere anyhow at this point.
Yeah.
Watching this. I mean, this episode was what it was. There was nothing that exciting about it. There was nothing.
There really wasn't
drastic about it. The challenge was dumb. Actually, like it's just like this is stupid.
Yeah. It's just running. It's just running.
It was just running. Yeah.
It was just a running challenge.
And like Big T was not good at it. And we're like, okay.
She eats donuts all the time.
Yeah. So it's not great.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. And then, she wanted to be in and she went up against Emmy. And it's like, Emmy's not good at puzzles, but
right.
Like,
there weren't any helps.
There was, like I love how like CT was yelling at her, and then they're like, Amanda's like, he needs to shut up. Like,
no, he doesn't.
He doesn't actually, because he knows how to do this. And so it was a weird episode. It's just like it felt like we actually, the cream rises to the top, and I feel like that's where we got from this episode. I feel like everyone left kind of deserves to be there. I don't think there's anyone left that doesn't deserve to be.
Amanda, maybe.
Well, I mean, she's
I don't know.
Done enough.
What is it? Yeah, I mean, what is it to say that somebody deserves to be there or not to be there?
I would just be like, if you just kind of, I would say actually the least deserving person to be there is Devin. Honestly, he's done nothing to be there, and he hasn't won a competition. He has sucked at all the actual like challenges. He sucked in this last one. He's like, I didn't finish. Like, Devin, you were out of breath. Like, what is your deal, dude? And I'm like, I felt bad because like I said last week too. I was like, I like Devin, but he like did not come to this competition prepared.
No, it's not his style.
And it was just like it was rough watching him. And then he gets really mad. And I follow him on Instagram, and he seems like he's trying to like better himself for this kind of thing. But
sure,
he just seems rough.
Yeah.
He's not on the.
He's going to weigh that team down. If the final is a team thing, he's going to weigh that team down.
Well,
like, that team is not ready for a final.
No, and the thing that I thought would be funny would be like if they say, "Well, your team is your team, and you have to split it the million amongst all of you." So it's like if you have more team numbers, you actually get less money.
Right.
And it's like, well, that sucks.
Yeah.
And especially if it's a thing where like everyone has to finish.
Yeah.
That sucks. You want to have fewer people,
right?
If you're trying to all finish together.
Well, that's what I mean. Is I feel like Ruby and Emerald are actually in pretty decent spots right now because on Ruby you've got Nelson, Logan, Tori. Yeah. On Sapphire you have Emmy, who's 4-0 in challenges, and
Beast.
CT and Kyle. And if you think that you're making it through with, we love Nani, but she's great in finals.
Yeah.
Nani, Amanda, and Devin, you're in trouble.
You're in a lot of trouble right now.
You're in a lot of trouble. You think when they get to the inevitable eat gross shit challenge that all 5 of them are going to be able to eat gross shit? I mean,
here's the actual
and Kyle will be, and Emmy grew up in Romania. I mean,
she doesn't even care. She'll be like, "This is just food. This is cuisine,"
right.
And this is high. that's the thing. Like, let's pretend, and I actually thought about this because, like, I think about this show so much. Let's pretend everyone just eats normally. It still takes 5 people longer to eat more than 3 people.
3, right?
So, like, you're still at a disadvantage. And I feel like that's kind of what the show was trying to do, is like, you're actually trying to make these teams even. And if you're trying to just stay on the easy team, because TJ doesn't like, TJ doesn't like that kind of stuff. He wants you to earn it. And there's a weird part of me where I feel like TJ is just doing everything, actually doing everything. And actually like tells the MTV producers, like, get out of it. Like, I want the winners to win. I got this. Yeah. So, I mean, it's.
So I think now we've been doing it as individuals, but I do think it. My thing was before they split into cells, he said, this is an individual game now. And so we've been holding on to that. But I do think that it's maybe kind of time to look at it as
Spies lies. Maybe
blue, red,
TJ's
green.
alive.
Yeah. I mean, blue, red, green. Can Kyle and CT work together? That's the question.
I think when it comes down to money.
Yeah.
When it literally just comes down to the money factor, Kyle and CT will just be like, you know what? Let's just do it. And, our grievances aside, and then Emmy's just going to do whatever CT tells her.
Yeah,
so
exactly. Right.
That's the kind of, I think they're the strongest team right now.
Yeah. And I would say red.
Yeah.
Not for the daily challenges, but we're looking at that.
But we've also learned that doesn't matter as much. Right. That's the funny thing too, is it doesn't actually matter. So
Right. Yeah. The daily challenges are numbers games, and that favors that. But I do think that once you get into a final and you're going to have to run and you're going to have some stamina, that Nani, Amanda, and Devin are going to sink that team in a hurry. And that's.
It's just so weird to me. No one calls Devin. Like, I would call Devin in a second.
Well, they haven't had the opportunity to.
Right, but it's like that one time they did, it was, his best friend. And it's like,
Josh.
dude.
It was Josh and Kyle,
yeah, and it's just like, Kyle, why wouldn't you, like, I understand you're best friends, but I mean, like.
Well, it didn't matter because he won anyway.
Right, yeah. But it's just weird to me.
I'm going to pull this up real quick. You put me onto this Instagram account.
Oh, the statistics.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to come on. He's a little too shy, which is fine. Good for him.
Oh, you did talk to him?
Yeah, I reached out. He doesn't think he's up for, this right now, but at some point. Okay. Maybe. He's a good account, great account for any challenger
what the hell is
listeners.
It called?
Challenge stats, I think so.
I follow them from the challenge stats. Yeah, it's just called challenge stats. And he posted Josh's career stats. Best finished 7th. He's been on 5 seasons. He's got he's been in 61 episodes, a 1-5 elimination record. And he's won $3,000. His elimination record. He's had 17 team wins. In terms of pair wins, he's 1-24 in pair competition, and then 1-7 in individual. Yeah, Josh has a startlingly bad record in the challenge. But he won Big Brother, so there's that. Good for him.
Good for him.
We're gonna move on to Grammy nominations. Jon Batiste shows that he is more than just Stephen Colbert's band director, as he gathered 11 nominations, being a jazz musician, while Billie Eilish, Justin Bieber, Olivia Rodrigo were nominated multiple times. Lady Gaga and Tony Bennett received nominations for Album of the Year for Love for Sale and Pop Group Duo of the Year. AC/DC and Paul McCartney were nominated for Best Rock Album, proving that the old guys still own that category. Biggest takeaway, surprises, who should have, who shouldn't have been nominated.
So my biggest thing was the Grammys tries too hard to make up sometimes. And so I've listened to some John Batiste stuff, and it's very jazzy, in not the sense that I like jazz. It's a little too much like that. And so like they're like, oh, we have to go off the grid and try to pick something that isn't that actually popular, that literally no one listens to. I mean, the only reason that this started popping up on Instagram or on TikTok was because he got nominated. So people were like, oh, I have to put this in here to seem like I have been a fan for years. It's not that good. I'm sorry. It just isn't. Jazz can be good. It can be great. This is fine. It is what it is. But the Grammys, they're a try hard. They're much a try hard organization, and they're like, well, we have to salute jazz. And I'm not even saying this in the sense of like I thought anyone deserved anything over him. It was just that they do this thing where like someone gets way more Grammy nominations, which leads me to this. Jay-Z has the most Grammy nominations of anyone ever. Jay-Z is not the best at anything he's ever done. And he has the most Grammy nominations, and he beat out Quincy Jones, who might be, a top 3 singers, songwriter, producer of all time. Jay-Z is not a top 3 rapper. He's not a top 3.
Oh.
He's not the top 3 rapper of all time.
Oh.
He's not. He just isn't. I mean, like, it just, Jay-Z's a top 5 rapper of all time, but he has the most Grammy nominations of all time. And that's insane to me. And that like tells you what the Grammys is. It's like, they are just always trying to make up for things. So they hand out Grammy nominations or Grammy awards to people making up. And so it's like Jay-Z probably should have been nominated early, which he wasn't, for things. And then he got all the Grammy nominations late when his stuff wasn't as good. So it's this weird thing of like the Beatles don't have that many Grammy awards. The Beatles, whatever you think of, I mean, like, they're my favorite band of all time. And it's different. Like, it's my favorite band of all time. So it's not your favorite band of all time. It's not, it is what it is. But it's just like, for the fact that the Beatles aren't even close to something like this is kind of silly. And they didn't have the longevity, but still, it was like solid 10-year run of making completely, songs you can listen to today and be like, this still is great. Jay-Z has songs that came out 5 years ago and it's like, I will never listen to this again. And so the Grammys are so much of like, they are trying to make up for mistakes the year after that they don't even know what's current and they don't even know what people want. So it's cool that they had Lady Gaga and Tony Bennett nominated. I thought that was, and I listened to them, it's really good. The McCartney album is really good.
Let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
I hate to interrupt you here.
No, interrupt.
Well, first of all, 2 reputable sources say that Jay-Z is a top 3 rapper all time. I'm just gonna say
that's
that.
Fine. Isn't personally my favorite rapper of all in my top 7 or 8 rappers of all time, but
I don't think that you. Like you saying John Batiste shouldn't be nominated because nobody wants to listen to it. So nobody listened to jazz. Like, who the hell listened to Lady Gaga and Tony Bennett? Tony Bennett's like a million years old.
My point on that is that they are trying to. It's not him. Like the music is fine, whatever. My point is that last year everyone was like, "Oh, we have to go a different direction." So because all the nominees were young people. And so their direction was to go.
But they still nominated Justin Bieber and Olivia Rodrigo.
Right. Well, you still have to nominate. You still have to nominate those. You still have to nominate what's popular, but then you also have to nominate someone that like literally has no one ever listening to it. Like I did not even know, and I'm pretty with it with contemporary music. I did not know John Batiste had an album that came out until the day he got nominated. And then people are like, oh, I love this album. This has been my thing all year. I'm so glad it's like, no, I've never seen you put this on your Instagram. I never saw you put this on anything. You're just saying this now. And it's a disservice to like musicians. If you think the music's good, that's fine. But like, don't counteract the idea of like, oh, because what people said last year, now we have to pretend like we care this year. this is the thing. It's like whatever. That's the problem with the Grammys, is that they're too reactive and not proactive. They could have been on different trends all the time, and they like stay so behind on things. And that's the sad thing about this, is like, I don't like Casey Musgraves got nominated for nothing, and Billie Eilish got nominated, and Billie Eilish's record is fine, but it's not as good as her first record. And yet it's like, let's give her all these nominations because we think we like her, because everyone tells us we should like her.
Here's my argument with this is, take this with a grain of salt, because I don't listen to anything that was nominated. Sure. Like literally anything. Like I listened to Kanye and Drake, and one of your questions of who should have been nominated that wasn't. I was shocked that Weezer wasn't nominated.
Yeah.
For best rock album, but that's fine. So take this with a grain of salt. But I do know music, and I can say, like, here's the thing, right? Is Jon Batiste is a jazz musician, has more talent in his 10 fingers than Olivia Rodrigo and Justin Bieber do combined in their entire bodies. Period.
I'm not, and like, whether, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I 100% believe that. But there's a lot of good jazz music that comes out every year. And then they decided this year to make someone nominated for it, because last year they're like, all they nominated was pop music. That was the thing.
The same argument of the Oscars in reverse, though.
No,
it's like, well, why doesn't Endgame win? It's the most popular thing versus some bullshit indie movie that nobody saw.
Right.
It's the same argument in reverse.
Right. But also it's just like, if no one's listened to your music, it's the movie that,
who the fuck saw Nomadland?
And I don't, I saw it, but I agree with you. They weren't as good as I'm literally saying what you're saying, is that if you're trying to make up for things, like sometimes the best thing that happens is also the thing that most people listen to. And I'm not saying this is necessarily the case, but also don't try to be like, they're trying to be woke without actually knowing anything. In a way, it makes them look worse. And this is the thing, it's like they try to backtrack on all this stuff when they're like, just nominate what people listen to, because that's what we want to see. No one really wants to see Jon Batiste perform at the Grammys. And
maybe I want to see Jon Batiste.
Go ahead and pretend that you care about it. That's awesome. Put him on your Instagram, put him on your TikTok, whatever. But like, I listened to a few songs. I was like, this doesn't work. This is not. And I do a thing every year in December, every year. And I've done it for 15 years. I look at the top 15, 25, whatever albums of the year based on a lot of different references, whether it be NPR, Rolling Stone, whatever's out there. And then I compile what makes the most sense, essentially, of what I think the top 25 records are of the year. And then I listen to them, and I think I give a pretty fair grade on things like that. And it's just like, if this album's on there, that'll be fine, and I'll listen to it. But it just feels to me that the Grammys is always a year behind. They're always trying to catch up, and they're not trying to actually care about what people listen to. I don't think it's bad to go after popular culture. This is what you and I have said about the Academy Awards. It's like, I don't think it's bad to go after popular culture. Do I think Olivia Rodrigo's album is the best album of the year? No, I do not. It got nominated for Album of the Year.
Which is crazy, because she's a known plagiarist.
She is a known plagiarist. Well, she did a lot of people do that. But there's also really other good music out there. I listened to Paul McCartney's album today, and I've listened to it another time before. It's kind of crazy. The reason why I say this is this guy made music 65 years ago that was amazing. Whatever you think of the Beatles, it was amazing. It was ahead of time. He puts out an album now that is still nominated for Rock Album. Why is it not nominated for Best Album? It's as good as everything else out there. And I'm not saying it just because I'm a Paul McCartney fan. I have that just in the background while we're driving. I'm like, well, shit, this is really good. This is better than Jon Batiste, but we're trying to be like, the Grammys are trying to do too much. That's my point. this is my problem. The biggest snub though is Casey Musgraves. Her album was a life story about getting divorced, and we just throw her aside like she's nothing. And that was my biggest surprise. My biggest takeaway: Grammy's trying to do too much. Biggest snub is Casey Musgraves, and shouldn't have been nominated. I'm not saying John Batiste shouldn't have been nominated. It just feels like 11 is just like we're trying to capture everything all at once, and it's gonna hurt them because he'll probably win album of the year, and everyone's like, well, that's not that good. Especially the problem is Adele's album came out a week or so ago, and everyone's listening to that, and that's not currently nominated. So
missed the deadline. Yeah, it'll clean up next year. It's one of those things where like that, right? And that's one of those things where it's like her album. She probably, record companies do that kind of stuff intentionally, but it's one of those things where people are like, well, it's rough, and it's nothing against him. This is not against him. I personally don't think it's that great, but I'm also not a big jazz guy. I just think it's a bad thing to give someone all this stuff out of nowhere, and then because we as an organization screwed up. And that's the thing. It's like all this stuff's going to be on him, and if he only wins like 2 or 3, then people are going to be like, well, why was he nominated for so much? Or if he wins all of them and then people listen to it and they're like, well, it's okay. I don't know. It's just a weird thing that the Grammys are always trying to keep up, and then the Oscars are always trying to be smarter than everyone else. And what is it with just being popular? I feel like that's the thing. Like, what's wrong with being popular? What do you think? Honestly, Brenton, what do you think? Because you and I have like had this thing about, I know you don't listen to all the current music, but I don't listen to any current music.
Well, you like Flying Mike Eagle, and that was awesome. And you and I both agreed that was great. But like
Mike Eagle, Open Mike Eagle.
Mike Eagle. I'm sorry.
Flying Mike Eagle.
Sorry. But that's a good name though. He's really good.
I don't know that it is. To me, it's whatever. I don't care about any of this.
I don't care about, but I do care too much.
It's if whoever makes these nominations. Here's what I will say is I scrolled the nominations for like the different things, and they have to cite everyone who has a writing credit in these albums.
Yeah, that's insane.
It's insanity. Justin Bieber's looked like a guest list.
It was a wedding invitation.
Wedding. Yes, it was ridiculous. Exactly. And I will say that I'm not a huge Billie Eilish fan, but it is just her and her brother that make all that music, which is, she has my respect for that, even if she doesn't appear to have great hygiene. I've said, like I said, known plagiarist Olivia Rodrigo shouldn't have been nominated for that reason, and I was surprised that Weezer wasn't nominated for the rock stuff. But other than that, it's whatever.
I will tell you, I know you're not a big, Beatles fan, but I would suggest for you listen to McCartney 3. It's a fun album. Just if you just need it in the background, it's a fun album. McCartney 3.
Pop Culture Potpourri. We'll move on.
Yeah. Scarlett Johansson is working on a top secret Marvel project, according to MCU boss Kevin Feige, and does not have anything it has nothing to do with Black Widow.
Yeah, I don't know what that could be possibly. My only thing is maybe it's an animated thing. Well, I think she was doing some production stuff.
Okay.
So I don't know. I'm sure it'll rear its head at some point.
Cool. I'm glad we went Scarlet, still a part of it. WB is creating a crossover fighter called Multiverses and will feature Smash Brothers styles platforming fighters from across the WB IP. The game will be free to play, and as of now, features fighters from Game of Thrones, Steven Universe, DC, Scooby-Doo, Looney Tunes, and Tom and Jerry. Other IP the game could mine will be Harry Potter, Space Jam, the Monsterverse, and more. You can sign up for these game testing sessions on the multiverses.com site.
I signed up for it.
I will.
It's like Smash Brothers. It's a Smash Brothers clone.
That's what Animaniacs.
Animaniacs could be one. It's just really unsettling seeing like Arya Stark fight against Shaggy.
Or like, who's going to be the toughest? It feels like Scooby-Doo will be the toughest.
Like Superman fighting against people from Adventure Time is just weird. It's just
awesome.
very unsettling.
Can we make this into a Mario Kart? That'd be sick too. I love that.
Well, it's a Smash Brothers clone.
I know, but it'd be cool to make a Mario Kart. Shaka series cast Natasha Lau Bordizzo as Sabine Wren and prominent Mandalorian character from Star Wars Rebel.
Yeah, they're just filling out.
Yeah.
Filling out the cast.
Just filling out. John Wick and Matrix star Keanu Reeves would be honored to be asked to join the MCU, and we'd be honored to have him as MCU fans. It'd be great to have Keanu Reeves. Be awesome.
Who he'd play.
Figure it out. Christian Bale's getting the MCU now, so
that's fair.
We never thought that would happen. I'm stoked. It'll happen. Ridley Scott, House of Gucci, who has a TV series in development for Alien and Blade Runner, and blames millennials for the box office failures for his latest films. We are terrible. The latest still saying he blames a generation brought up by cell phones and Facebook. Meta. These comments a short period of time after making comments about superhero movies being fucking boring as shit. The last one made just $27 million worldwide and failed to recoup its $100 million box office, despite a star-studded cast of Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, and Adam Driver. Scott is the latest in a long line of prolific directors to take a shot at the endeavors of both Marvel and DC. In his latest film, The House of Gucci, we talked about it. It came out this week and has a nice window before having to compete with Spider-Man.
Checking something real quick.
I have a what are you gonna do? I don't know. I mean, we're not to blame. People gave us the options.
Yeah. He released a movie that is,
that movie was real bad, by the way.
It didn't look good.
It looked so bad.
It didn't look great. I'll look it up on RT. Not Russia talk.
I don't honestly, I mean, I'm beyond the point that caring what Rotten Tomatoes really cares. If a movie just looks bad,
it's good to see the
right
audience.
The audience score, right.
Yeah. That's helpful, I would say. Okay, Last Duel, 85, 81 audience score, 85 critical. It's just one of those things. It's he tried to say, he's like, well, I have made superhero movies, right? Aliens, Gladiator, I forget what the other one he cited was. I was like, calm down, Ridley. It's just I don't the whole Marvel thing. His thing was it's all CG and blah blah blah. I don't actually necessarily disagree with that, because Shang-Chi, for example, I like all the parts that were just the Kung Fu movie, and when they brought in the fucking CG dragons, I didn't like it anymore. You know what I mean? So there is probably a little bit of credence to that. I just think that it's it's getting to the point now where it's almost if you want to seem smart, you take a shot at Marvel movies.
Right.
Guess who's smart? Is the people who are making so much money from Marvel movies that $100 bill is what they wipe their ass with.
Right.
So who's the smart one? You know what I mean? At the end of the day, this is a business, and it's all about dollars and cents. And I'm saying that the Last Duel's dollars don't make sense.
Right. I mean, this is kind of the Grammys thing. It is.
That's
what I mean. You're nominating something that doesn't matter as much to people. I mean, I'm not to backtrack, but it's just you're kind of just making up for things like that. And it really Scott, the thing is, if your movies are appreciated, then your movies are appreciated.
Yeah.
If that movie was good, if it made
people
25 million, people would have just been the movie's fine. It just didn't make money because of COVID. The movie just wasn't good. It looked terrible, and there were some bad haircuts. I'm sorry.
Rough haircuts.
That's the way it is.
Yeah.
Back to Marvel. Yeah. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania has finished wrapping, and that must have been where our guy was doing some Vulture stuff.
Maybe. No. I don't think.
No, I just by accident doing Vulture stuff, in the background.
Yeah, maybe. The Marvels also
Michael
wrapped.
Keaton.
That was late. That was a late
Yeah.
thing. But yeah.
So we're getting there. We're getting through, and we're hitting the, let's see here, 3.5 weeks. We'll have Spider-Man, and then it's just get ready, everybody.
I was
Put your
saying to
seatbelt
somebody that I never, like, you never pay attention to, like, you know, something's in pre-production versus something's filming versus it's wrap filming versus it's in post-production. But since we've started doing this, I've paid way more attention to that type of thing. And, you know, we started in the middle of COVID, so the timelines are probably all janky or whatever, but, you know, I'm starting to be able to put together a picture of like how long it really takes to make a movie.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes longer and shorter than you think, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
That's a weird way to say things.
Well, I think it takes way shorter to film.
Right. And everything
than you
else.
think it would.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like, well, especially I think too, because so many people, especially our age, were, you know, talked about the concept of like the Lord of the Rings filmed all at once. So it was like they were filming for so long.
Right.
But like one of these movies, it takes like 6 weeks and then they're back in their mansion, you know?
Yeah. And then post-production takes
years.
10 months. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing is, like, and I had a teacher one time who, when he would show a movie in class, he would make us watch the credits.
Sure.
And I do think that there is a part of me that's kind of understanding that a little bit more, because way more, like, the CG animators and editors have a way harder job than like Brie Larson.
I always watch the credits, not just because of Marvel. I've done it for a really long time. I want to pay respect. I know nobody cares. I know they don't know that I'm watching it, but it's just like, you got to read those names, and every once in a while is a funny name, and that makes me laugh, and then I move on.
Well, and funny job titles too.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the gaffer and shit.
Yeah. Like food consultant, or like hairstylist to a certain actor. And it's just funny to me.
Yes.
Hayao Miyazaki to come out of retirement to direct
you want me to help you out with that one?
Yeah, I hope you would. I didn't because I know who this is, but
Hayao Miyazaki.
Hayao Miyazaki to come out of retirement to direct one more film for Studio Ghibli. Good.
That's deal.
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's best animated picture stuff.
Yeah, that's gonna be whatever it is.
It's gonna be
awesome. Yeah, that's a 100% chance of being amazing. New Spider-Man No Way Home poster features the villains.
Okay, so hang on here. Let me do this. We're just gonna do this. Okay. Can you see my mouse?
Yes.
Can you see my mouse? Okay. So Goblin right here.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Obviously we see the Doc Ock, tentacles, Electro, Lizard right here, Sandman, Sand.
Yes.
Does this look like Venom to you? Like, I might be grasping at straws here. It's very likely
it could be Venom. If
it's like the sand.
Yeah.
You know, but it also kind of, to me, looks like symbiote.
I mean, it has to be.
Yeah.
Because who else could it be?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's what I've looked at this, and you know, we know Michael Keaton's out there doing Vulture stuff, but I don't know.
It doesn't look like anyone else.
Yeah.
I mean, this movie's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, it's gonna be nuts. And it's in what, 3 weeks, you said?
December 17th, so 3.5. It's gonna be 4 weeks from today when we record, actually.
3 weeks from today. 17th.
Oh wow. Okay,
3 weeks from today.
School. That's right. 3 weeks to school. Yep.
Yeah, 3 weeks of school. We'll be there.
That's crazy.
We'll do I'm gonna see that either on Friday or Saturday. So
I'm literally seeing it the quickest as I can. So
yeah, we'll do a review that weekend. We'll have the review up. We won't.
Are you buying your tickets on Spider Monday?
No, because I'm not gonna have to.
Yeah, I won't.
It's not gonna sell out. It's not gonna sell out. I was the only person in the theater for Ghostbusters.
And you were like
I
six
saw it.
people in the theater.
I saw it really early in the day, though. Anyway, last one here.
Okay. Whoops, sorry, I clicked off looking at something else. Crisp Rat will not be attempting the Italian American accent in a Mario movie.
If you're not gonna try to do It's a Me a Mario. What?
Janie just chimed in.
What'd she say?
Dennis Haskins. I'm not gonna have Dennis Haskins come in. He's dead. And Dennis Hopper.
Yeah, Dennis Hopper. If
Have
you're
everyone
not,
come in.
Bob Hoskins played Mario.
Bob Hoskins. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Bob Hoskins.
Dennis Hopper.
John
Bob Hoskins.
Leguizamo was Luigi. If you're not going to try to do It's a Me a Mario,
It's a Me a Mario.
what is the fucking point?
I'll do it. I'll tell you what.
This is rough.
I'll do it for half the amount that Chris Pratt gets. I'll
probably do it for 10% of what he gets paid. And I would
don't sell yourself too short.
I would do just fine. I believe that. Media
this is
recommendations.
insane now. Well, I like. So what's the point?
Yeah,
I just will say, what's the point of the movie then?
Yeah, there's no point. Money.
There's no point.
Money.
My recommendations: the Beatles doc on Disney. It's awesome. I sent you and Ty a text today about like you literally just feel like you're sitting there with them when they're trying to do this like last kind of concert thing. It's great. It's cringy because Paul is just like, what the hell is everyone doing other than Ringo? He's not mad at Ringo ever, but he's like, he's mad at George a lot. Because George is like, I don't know when I should come in. I don't know when I should come in. And then John is just like, doesn't give a crap. And Paul's like, all I want to do is make this work, but nobody gives a crap about it. And he's just like very into it. But then he's just cracking jokes on the side. He's very serious about like, let's get the work done, but also cracking jokes off of the side. So it looks great. It was filmed in Kodachrome. It looks really good. The audio is really good. It's Peter Jackson, so everything's long as crap. The first episode's 2.5 hours. I have 19 minutes left of the first episode, but it's great. I can't recommend it enough. I mean, as someone who's watched all the Beatles stuff, this has the potential to be the best of all those.
I don't know, man. The anthology was
really good too.
That was like event viewing.
That was amazing. The thing with this is that you really the anthology felt like it was being filmed. This just literally, like I said, feels like you're just sitting there. You're just like, let me just kind of be in the shadows while I'm watching Paul be mad at everyone, which also made me respect Paul even more than I did already. Cause like, he didn't want to be the leader of the Beatles. It was just, everyone else was just being kind of asshats about everything. And it's like, you're the greatest band in the world right now. And you don't care. And he's like, I'm trying to make this something because we know we're fading out. Like we know we're not going to be together forever. So that's really good. Curse of Von Dutch is a 3-part series on the fashion line Von Dutch from the early 2000s. It's only 3 parts. I think maybe they're an hour each. They might not even be that long. It's amazing because like the rise, fall, and absolute crash of this industry is hilarious, and everyone is a scumbag. So that's always fun to watch. When literally everyone is a scumbag, that's always a good thing to watch. Succession, just because I haven't really mentioned it, we're more than halfway through that season. It's really great. Have you watched Succession, Brenton?
No.
It's awesome. It's just, I mean, I can't recommend it enough. I mean, if you're into just any of the other really great shows of the last 20 years, whether it be Mad Men, Better Call Saul, Sopranos, why am I thinking Breaking Bad? If you're in any of those really good storytelling shows, Succession's really good. And I feel like this season might be the best. And then we are watching The New Pope, which is the second season of that series with Jude Law. it's from a couple years ago, so we're watching that. It's really good. It's super weird too. But yeah, some kind of, it was a nostalgia week for me.
Yeah.
I would say super nostalgia.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we kind of had that with Ghostbusters and Bebop and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, etc. For me, I just really recommend, watching Cowboy Bebop. I think it's probably more accessible if you haven't seen the anime, honestly.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah, and then I got the Guardians of the Galaxy game. I'm very early in it, so it's fun. But I'll have more to say about
really
that
fun
as time goes on. That's pretty much it for me. Let's see here. BXG Podcast publishes every Friday at 9 a.m. on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and other podcast services worldwide. You can catch us over on social media, Facebook.com/BXG Podcast, Instagram at BXG Podcast, at GT Phils, at Y2B, Twitter at BXG Podcast, at GT Philson, at Y2B, and on our YouTube channel, which you can search for BXG Podcast, which we will have Hawkeye, Ghostbusters, House of Gucci. I will look confused during most of it. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and the first 3 episodes of Cowboy Bebop this week. And yeah, that's it. It was a long one. That's what she said. We're going to have next Tuesday our top 10 favorite songs. We did listener submissions for that. We'll probably do it again since we punted that a week. We punted it back a week, so we'll probably try to get some more listener submissions, which will be good. It's always good to have a lot of listener feedback. We're still doing the the YouTube subscription drive, whatever you want to call it. 100 subscribers, $25 gift card, $550 gift card, $1,000 gift card, 50,000 of PlayStation 5. So slowly but surely, we're getting
Which
there.
I was seeing Ghostbusters news came out again today, so I did not snag one.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There's still, the hell was that? Still a rarity. Tell your friends, tell your family.
Tell your mothers.
About the unmistakable essence of the BXG Podcast. Take care, friends.
Thanks for listening. Happy Thanksgiving, late Thanksgiving.